All right, ladies, we'll see if other people join us, but welcome to Soul Chat. And we're just gonna not do anything formal. We're just gonna keep it real chill. And what Corey, you're up in the Chicago part of the world?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. And Daria, where are you?
I'm in England,
England part of the world. What time is it there?
12 a.m.
Right at the
Oh,
start of the
wow.
day.
Yes.
I've been trying to end my day about there because we've been going into the next day an hour or so, right? We've been having not been getting in bed till like 1 or 1:30, and it's not because we're doing anything. It's because we're finally both sitting together and decompressing and just watching
Yeah.
dumb stuff maybe on TV, and we don't want to stop doing that to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
No,
is.
I'm a night owl, so I normally go to sleep quite late.
Yeah.
But interestingly, since I met my person, I switched over to his time.
Mm.
It's really weird. So I get really tired at 10, which is his sleeping time. And so
That happens
lately
a
I've been
lot.
going to sleep at 10. Is
Yeah, I
that
think that happens a lot during um relationships where you guys are in different time zones. I hear that happens a lot where people get adjusted to the other person's time zone. I couldn't do it. Hi, Mike. Hi. Hi.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, Cameron, where are you going? Okay. You got money? Yeah. Okay.
I've got one as well.
Does he drive?
Hi, Mike. Okay.
Oh, wow.
He is okay. And of course, my 16-year-old son just walked out the front door and he did not close the door, which means the dogs will be barking at everything that walks across the floor or walks across the yard or the sidewalk for the next half an hour until I get up. I'm going to take care of this now. I'll be right back.
Okay.
So
So
today,
how's everything going with you, Daria?
Yeah, I mean, just doing some homework
Uh,
that I got given an email. I was just finishing that off,
homework,
trying to
no
think,
fun.
trying to think things through. Because Lee's questions, I think that was Lee's question. You have to really put them sometimes uh, in sections and sort of really think. It's like a puzzle to really think layer by layer, right? So
mhm.
I was just doing that one of the questions right now. And it's when you start the question, you don't know where it's going to take you, like when you start
Right.
answering. And then as I was started answering, more and more layers came and these, realizations come and you're like, oh, okay, I think I know the solution. So yeah, it's good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I don't have any homework. Nope. Been there, done that.
Is it raining behind your window there?
Is it
Is
raining?
it
No, it's not raining. It's just no.
okay? I was like, I thought I saw like lightning or something.
Lights. No, just lights. I'm in a car. I'm in my car. So lights
Um,
behind me.
Today we're gonna talk about a little bit about, or we're gonna discuss. Hi, Craig. Why every one of my dogs wants to come and see me right now. Hi, Craig. This is not the same dog that was here before, although they look very similar. This is
Yeah, they do look similar.
They do.
um conflict and connection. I know about that. I know Corey knows about that. Daria, have you had any experience with conflict and connection?
Yep.
Yeah. Corey, I'd like to talk to you a minute about Corey just moved out. Um, describe Corey. Describe this person. What do you what
Okay, so, well, I met my twin, and I'll explain this to Daria, but I met my twin in 2020. Um, Me and him, I have not talked to him in a year and a half, about a year. It'll
oh my
be a
gosh, it's
year.
been that long?
Yeah, last time I talked to him was in January of last year. Um, so, so in the meantime, I met a guy October of, what's this, 23. And we had fun. I didn't like him at first. And then something happened. I ended up loving him. And then we just kind of fell into everything to the point where he asked me to move in. I moved in and politely moved out 5 months later.
Politely.
Did you politely move out this time?
I did not politely, but I did politely. It was my choice.
So the move out, um, the recent move out,
Hmm.
um, is not with the one you're connected to, correct?
No,
I was just,
correct.
I know that. I was just clearing that up for everybody. Um, so you ended up in another relationship
Hmm.
in which you felt some type of connection, right? What happened?
What happened? Well,
So without getting in
I
too
think a
much
lot.
detail, we don't want to put all your
No,
business
yeah,
out there.
no, there's a lot that happened, but I just kind of, there's a lot that happened, but there's a lot that I don't put up with anymore because it's, like my, I set boundaries because of my values
Mhm.
is where it's at. But a lot's happened, and a lot. He's just recently divorced, but a lot's happened where he allows his ex-wife to be disrespectful to the relationship,
Okay. To your relationship.
and to our right, or so I politely cussed her out too, and I was polite about it,
Okay.
and then I told him I wasn't living with him anymore, but there's other factors, there's other factors of why I don't. But I told him I wasn't living with him anymore, but we are still together.
Yeah.
But then we had a conversation on what our needs are, what each of us needs in order to continue to move forward.
Did you argue or raise your voices?
Um, Initially, I said nothing and told him to leave me alone and just started packing my bags. And then, he said some stuff, and then, of course, I was fine. And then he told me something that his ex did. And I was like, I asked you for transparency and honesty, and you couldn't provide it. So, then it went into something else. So I raised my voice. And it's horrible because, it ended up getting to a point where I was being a little on the violent side. I didn't hit him, but I kind of threw a couple of things at him, and they missed. I'm just a bad aim, but
You didn't miss on purpose?
the first one I missed on purpose. The other ones, no.
I can't. I'd be lying if I'd sit here and say that Lee and I haven't had raised voices arguments because we certainly have.
Yeah.
And not 10 years ago either. You know what I mean? We're still human beings and we still live under the same roof and we're still together 24/7, which sounds
Yeah.
bad to most people. And it is not bad. We're used to being with one another. We've already got past that. but then in comes the just I kind of need an hour or two without your presence would be great.
Right.
But we don't want to, I don't want to say that to him. An hour or two without your presence would be great, would make him feel rejected, right? But sometimes it's something that I need. I
Yeah, it
have,
just comes from being in the same house, right? Because you're both at home whole day, right? So that um, with anyone, it doesn't matter who it is, you will need a break at some point. I think that's one bad side of working from home.
yeah, it's
You're in each other's
interesting.
space all the time.
We have a workspace and a home space. So it's kind of interesting that I do get reprieve some. For instance, today's been kind of busy because I've had 3 sessions on my own, and then this class, and then I had a class, and then he's done his own classes where normally I may only have 1 session a day. Um, and so I can come up to the home space and do the dishes and vacuum the floor and do those things that I love to do. And I really do love to do those types of things. Um, where in our workspace is a sort of our retreat room, and that's where we work. And I have a room off of that that's sort of a craft space. It's kind of my own little room, and I can do sessions and stuff in there. So we have our business space and then our home space. So I can, but there are times when I just know that he's in the same house. I have a I have a great self-care routine, and I birthed that out of that actual emotion of I need Sherry time away from you for even if you've been downstairs working for 3 or 4 hours. I've still heard your voice. I've heard you yelling. I've heard, you know what I mean? I've heard you laughing. I've been downstairs picking things up. So I've, still been connected to what he's doing. And, a lot of times he'll come upstairs and he'll still be in work mode. And in my mind, in his mind, there is no work mode. He doesn't have work home mode. He has Lee mode 24 hours a day. And I've got this wonderful soaking bathtub that I will fill up as full as I can before I get my big body in it to push it over its limits. Right? But it, but it, that space, uh, we have, we have a bathroom that allows me the luxury of soaking in that bathtub without interfering if he needs to use the restroom, because the
Yeah.
bathroom part's separate. So I can shut the door and go in there. But I got to tell you, there are those times when, especially being as connected as we are, and I can feel he's in a certain space. If
Mm.
if he happens to wake up before me, I come downstairs. He's already got his computer open. He's already in work mode. I'm still trying to get it together, right? Because it just doesn't come together like it used to. I used to be able to jump out of bed and go right into doing things, but I need some time to wake up. And depending on how much he's been in my face, maybe the couple days before, will it alter my mood? Like, I've come down 3 days in a row and this is where you've been, this is what you're doing. When we really have a goal that me and him have been focused on for the past week or so, we've been focusing on this goal. And I see the focus in him. I'm focused on it too. I want to pick up my computer, but I need to wake up. I found that yesterday I got a little perturbed and I was like, oh God, I cannot do this all day. And it wasn't even his energy, it was mine. And I have noticed a lot of the arguments that we have that get heated, that where there's raising of voices. Lee would want the world to believe that he doesn't raise his voice, and that is a lie. He does raise his voice. And I'm going to put that out there for the world. He does raise his voice. And what's worse is he talks with his hands, right? So he's yelling. You know what I mean? And for some reason, it just drives me nuts. Like, stop yelling at me. He doesn't even know sign language. It'd be different if he knew sign language and he was cussing me out. But he doesn't. His hands just start flying. What is that, right? There's little triggering things
Yeah.
that will get us there. I've traced it back a lot. My behaviors, why I behave the way I behave, why I say the things that I say, why I react the way I react. And I've traced it back quite a bit to where I, it sounds pretty sick, but it's true. Um, because of my abusive past, being sexually abused and physically abused. Um, After I left the sexually abusive environment, I jumped into a physically abusive environment. And then I realized as I got older and got out of that physically abusive cycle that I'm real good at triggering.
Yeah.
And I traced it back to this. I associated pain and hurt with love. So I know for a fact, obviously I couldn't come up with the exact instances, but I know that I did. I know that in my marriage, the physically abusive marriage, I mean, it's not like the man hit me every day or like it was crazy. It wasn't like that. I knew, I figured out after the hard way, whiskey turned him violent. Whiskey turned him
Mm.
violent. And if I saw that he was drinking whiskey, most oftentimes I would be like, oh shit, right? Oh shit. Um, and then when I saw that he was getting a little tipsy, right, I would switch him to beer and be like, oh, you finished all your whiskey, right? That type of thing. But on the other hand, there were times when feeling inside of myself lonely, I just needed some loving, right? Maybe I wasn't feeling heard or I was feeling sad or I just needed some companionship, that I would hit those trigger marks.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes even build it up for a couple of days where I was nitpicking and nitpicking and nitpicking and anything like you left your sock on the floor and then you left your boot in the garage and then the door was cracked and it would escalate from there until he couldn't take it anymore. And whiskey or not, he would
Yeah.
hit me a few times, right? Most oftentimes to the floor, and then I would get in fetal position, then he would start kicking me.
Mm.
And that would feel horrible, obviously. You know what I mean? And during those moments, I feared for my life. I was scared. Um, all these things, all these things. But subconsciously in the back of my mind, I knew what the next 3 or 4 days were going to bring. And they were going to bring apologies and I'm sorries and flowers and hugs and kisses and affection. And I also noticed that when Lee and I met, how the connection didn't allow that in the beginning. It didn't allow that. It, the connection allowed for us to build that connection. And we went through some shit. Y'all know, y'all saw the videos. We went through some shit, right? Um, but then we just kept getting through it. And something in my psyche, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was comfortability of relationship and just being married and being together all the time. Um, and obviously when you're with somebody for a long time, you know their triggers. I could probably say 2 words that would Lee would take a shit and move out. You know what I mean? I could come up with them. because we know their triggers.
Right.
And I noticed that I would dance around those triggers a lot. Sometimes I wouldn't touch them, but I would dance around them and then go over here, dance around this little trigger and dance around this little trigger until ultimately we would get in an argument. And clearly, for the first few years of our relationship, I tested the theory a lot, a lot. And he would never put his hands on me. I know now that he would never put his hands on me. And I also know now that love isn't associated with hurt like that, right? Um, but now conflict is a little different with us, with just the evolution of the connection and things that happen. Um, Communicating through connection, through conflict and connection. Who wants to talk? Who wants to talk?
I wanted to ask you something, and thank you for sharing. I haven't heard that part of that story before,
Yeah.
so that's shocking to hear. And I wanted to ask you one point that you mentioned earlier regarding when you're living together with someone you have the connection with. Does this get do the feelings of feeling them get stronger than when you are like not living together?
Stronger, I probably wouldn't use. More evolved, I would use. Um, a lot of times we don't even have to yell. I'll just telepathically say, bring me down some hangers while I fold this laundry, right? And
Yeah.
so connected, he'll come downstairs with the hangers. You know what I mean? But there are other times when I'm like, please don't come down with that hat on. I don't like that hat. It trigger me. I don't feel like looking at it today. And I love all of his hats. So I'm just, you know what I mean? Making an example.
Yeah.
Um, The telepathy gets more stronger. There's a good word for that.
Mm.
But because the telepathy gets stronger, we don't necessarily, the feeling is there all the time. Like I know he's right there. I know he's right there. I just know he's right there. And he can even be gone from the house, and I know he's right there. I've been really enjoying my summers where he goes off to the car shows by himself in the mornings with his friends, and I can sleep till like noon. And then when he comes in, I'm like, oh gosh, I missed you or whatever. We don't
But
have
you felt each
that.
other.
We don't have that normally. Oh, I missed you
Mm.
when you went in the kitchen, right? Uh, I'm gone. I'll be back. I'm going in the kitchen. Um, Communication's different, right? It's better for me now to say to him, here comes number three. We've been visited today. Um, was you downstairs with your daddy and he was boring? So now, okay, here, I got your bed already. Come on, lay down. Um, we don't we don't miss each other because we're rarely apart. Um, I know before I even open my eyes, really, where the energy's at in the room. And now in our connection, I can say to him, yeah, I just really want to nitpick at you today. I mean, I just really want to point out everything that's wrong. And Lee is constantly, he'll be the first one to say, you just harp on everything that I've done wrong. But the 5,000 things that I did right, you don't
Mm.
you don't say anything about. And I thought about that for a long time and I thought, yeah, he's right about that. But then when they're acting accordingly, right? Or right? Not really, and doing all the right things. Lee always does all the right things. He helps me with the laundry, he helps me with the dishes, he helps me with, I mean, with everything. He cleans the toilets. There's nothing he won't do. And
Hmm.
he does the yard work. If something's broke, he fixes it. He, there's nothing he won't do. Um, so I have no complaints, but I can make them up.
But would you say that that's mostly nothing to do with the person? It's just the person is conveniently there when the mood is there. You're hungry,
Yep.
you haven't slept,
And it all
it's
has boiled down to all of it.
yeah,
It's all boiled down to what's going on inside of me that allowed
Right.
the conflict.
yeah.
And
And
that's what I go ahead.
you what, Corey?
That's what I was wondering because
Hmm.
yeah, Scott is too told me, you tell me everything that I do wrong. But I tell him things that he does right. He doesn't, he doesn't listen to the few times that I've said, you do this. And
Well,
I appreciate, but,
yeah. And I do
and,
say those things. I say
but
those
I
things a
do.
lot. I let Lee know that I appreciate him a lot more now, but um man, man. Um I simply told Lee, if I commented on everything you did right, I would not stop talking
Right.
versus the five things that you screwed up that I could harp on,
Yeah.
right? And he said, but you still don't stop talking because you're still communicating it. You're still harping on it. And I couldn't maybe not say anything for a day, but then 2 days later, I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. Right? You left the microwave open, right? And
Yeah.
I'll go back to that and file back. I used to. We communicate differently now.
Yeah.
We communicate a lot differently now, where he'll say something, I'll be like, Lee, I'm not in the space. Where I used to not be able to do that, I'm not in the space, Lee, he would feel rejected. Or like what I was doing was more important, right? And I had to explain to him what I was doing at that moment was more important to me. I was doing that. Not more important than you, but
Mm.
more important what I was doing with what you had to say to me in that moment because I was unfocused on what you were trying to say. I was focused on what I was trying to do, and I was only giving you a quarter of my attention. So
Right.
I would rather stop you from going through the whole spiel and then and say, look, I'm not in the space in the moment. Let me finish up what I'm doing, and we'll come back to that. Where 5 years ago, that would have been an argument waiting to happen. And
So how do you change your communication?
by being myself, my true, genuine, snarky self, and not trying to pretend to be somebody that I'm not by avoiding conflict.
Right.
Mm.
No walking on eggshells, no keeping your mouth shut because you don't want to have conflict. It's really just me being honest and telling him I'm not in that space in this moment. Even so much as, Lee, I've got to get through this, right? 5 years ago, he would have been like, well, I don't know what the heck they're doing, but right. But now it's like, I'm sorry, I'll come back. Let me know when you're finished, right?
Mm.
Right.
We had to get through the point where Lee was like, I don't know what to do anymore. Well, I can help you with that. If I'm not in that space, I'm not in that space, and I don't want to lie to you and pretend like I'm in that space. That's not being who I am.
Right.
That
Um,
only leads to resentment later anyway, or like bottling it up so then it will blow up more, right?
you're being visited too.
Yes, by Arthur.
Um, so I had to throw away the facade. And the
Yeah.
facade is usually the facade is usually for us with the feminine energy. The facade somewhere falls in this tent of we're not crazy, we're not obsessive. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna fill your gas tank with sugar, right? All those, I'm not crazy.
Right.
Well, I'm a little
Right.
crazy, right?
Sometimes. Right.
Yeah. And trying to hide that was making me even crazier,
Right.
Mm.
right? So now if I'm feeling crazy, I'll just tell Lee, you know what? Let me tell you what I want to say to her. And just saying it to Lee helps.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it, but let me tell you what I want to say, right?
Right.
Um, let me tell you what my mind's telling me you did that for, right?
Right.
Because normally if there's conflict, it's that's not true. Always when there's conflict, it's never about what you're fighting about.
Mhm.
Because let me try to think of the last I I don't know, last few times me and Lee have had an argument, it's been over something so silly. But those silly things gets the meat out, right? Because now you're talking, you started talking about the microwave being left open and now the bulbs
Mm-hmm.
burn out, right? Way to go. Now you have to go buy another bulb. It went from that to, I don't even think you love me. You don't do this and you don't do that and we don't hug and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not happy.
But that's because it was bottled up in the first place, so it came out,
All in
right?
here. I
Like
wasn't
that.
happy Monday because I did this. I wasn't happy Tuesday because I didn't get this done. I put too much expectation on myself and it's all Lee's fault.
Right.
And he's right sometimes when he says I'm a casualty sometimes of your abuse. And he's right.
Yeah.
Mm.
He has had to numerous times remind me that he's not my stepdad. Like I'm not him.
Right.
I'm not him, right? And why are you treating me like I'm him? And I'm thinking, there's no possible way I could be treating you like you're him because, well, I'd be in jail for murder and you would be bloody on the floor.
Mm.
I mean, it would get ugly. I'm just
Right.
mad at you because you're in the room.
Right.
But then, you know what I mean? It's so easy to can be laying in bed side by side, roll over. I put my arm around him, middle of the night. He gets hot. He takes my arm and moves it off. And for 2 days, he rejected me.
Right. 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 That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, for 2 damn days. And
Yeah.
probably didn't even tell him what he did. He didn't even know anyway. He was asleep,
Yeah.
right?
So just say it's better to be direct then and just instead of
Communicate
all of
about it.
those silly dialogues that we have because
Communication,
somebody did something.
communication and connection super important through
Yeah.
conflict. You're connected. You already know. I'm leaving. Uh, all right. Because you already know in your knower, right? Lee and I had a thing for many years. And um, my father left. I had abandonment issues. My father left when I was 4 or 5, and then, he didn't come back. And most everybody that I've really given my heart to has left me. And so why in the hell was I going to give him everything that I had? Because I didn't want to lose him.
All right.
Then I realized that I wasn't giving him everything I had and it was pushing him away. But I wasn't
Mm.
talking about it because I wasn't doing anything wrong. So I didn't want to talk about it, right? But then I realized it really is all me. I'm not saying Lee's a saint and he hasn't had a part in it because he takes two to argue and he's participating. He participates. But anymore now, the communication is so much better. It works like this. My head says, but I feel, right?
Mhm.
My head says you did it on, my head said you didn't vacuum the floor because you were too lazy to pick up the dog toys, but you knew I would be up here later and you knew I was going to trip over this dog toy. That's the reason you didn't vacuum. right? But
Mhm.
I can now come to him and say, well, my head says you left it there, so I'd trip. I know better, Lee, right? But I'm telling
Mhm.
you, so my head don't file that back to
Right.
pull out later, right? When
Yeah.
I used to file, my files used to be in a vault, like a bank vault. It was big. I had a lot of files. I had a lot of them, right? I mean, stuff Lee did in 1912, I had a file of, right? And
When you present it, right? You present that, and
yeah,
then because you don't get rejected by the person, they accept it, and then they might help you analyze the root of that, and it actually silly, really silly things can actually
turn into a
get
divorce.
you to something significant,
Yeah.
right?
It's February and you didn't take the Christmas tree down and now
Well,
you know what I mean? Now you're splitting up custody. It happens like that
right.
because we
It does.
file so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
We file so deeply and we don't want to look like crazy women.
Yeah.
So we file so deeply and we don't communicate our wants, our needs. What do you want for dinner? Anything you want? I want Chipotle. Screw that any
Okay.
whatever you want anymore.
Right.
Screw that.
Right.
Okay, I want
Right.
Chipotle. I don't feel like Chipotle tonight. Okay, can Taco Bell. Fine, whatever. Right? Let's just narrow it down. We're getting Mexican.
Right.
Right? Because even saying something like that, I found that I was devaluing myself. Oh, I don't know, whatever you want. Now I'll be like, what would I like? And then I'll be like, you know what? I don't know that I even have a taste for anything, so I don't know. And
Right.
he'll maybe say something. Maybe we'll just order a pizza. Whatever. You know what I mean? Instead of 2 days later, well, you got to pick the food on Monday. You got to pick the food on Tuesday. You got to pick the food on Wednesday. You know what I mean? I still haven't got Chipotle. Well, I didn't know you wanted Chipotle. I ate Chipotle on Monday. We didn't communicate about
Right.
it.
We didn't let them
Right.
know.
And
Yeah.
now I'm mad because he's got his way
Right.
3 damn days in a row.
Right.
And now that my file cabinet's gone, because I had to dismantle it, burn it and dismantle, I blew it up in the house. Let me just tell everybody. I blew it up in the house fire. Um, I don't have those that I pull from, right? Because we've had those deep conversations of why we bring up the past, why we file. Women, we file, feminine energy, we file for several reasons. One of them is just like I said before, to not look crazy, to not look demanding, right? To not look obsessive, to not look
Right.
bitchy, to not look like a nag, right? All these words that come with being a female,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? Um, it's so much stereotyping that we tend to just shut up.
Right.
And a lot of us are bred that way. My grandma taught me very, very 1950s style wifing, you know. Um, let him come in from work and bring him his food and all this stuff. And that's great, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I tried it in my first marriage and he couldn't figure out why I was always bringing him regular plates, but everybody else got to eat on paper plates. And to me, to my grandmother, it was a respect thing,
Right.
right? Well, he was like, well, it doesn't make any sense because that's creating extra work for you. Now you're going to have to do this dish. And there was just so much involved. And when I was, when I had met Lee and was kind of doing the same things, and he's like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work for me. I'll eat like everybody else does. And if you're eating on a glass plate, then I'll eat on a glass plate. But if you're eating on a paper plate, I'm eating on a paper plate.
Right.
That was weird to me. that was weird to me that he wanted to be,
Equal.
yeah. Um, it's interesting that since I got sick and I had my transplant, um, how much more I'm coming into who I am. And it's for sure not who I wasn't. But I know that I'm not the nag. I'm not the bitch. I'm not obsessive. I'm a little crazy sometimes, but I think that comes with the title of wife. I'm pretty sure. Or girlfriend, or even lover, or connected, or twin, whatever you want to call it, even, right?
Oh, right, right,
It comes with being with another human being. They make you
right.
crazy.
Anyone, it really.
But if you can talk and communicate about the crazy,
Mhm.
right? That's the most important thing. I can be talking about the neighbor, and I love our neighbors, by the way. I'm just using an example. Like, no, what I want to do is just put Roundup bombs all through their yard,
Hmm.
right? That's what I want to do. I want to get a voodoo doll and stick a pin in the brain, right? That's what my mind tells me I want to do. But, just talking to Lee and he's going, yeah, I feel that. Well, we're not going to do that, but I feel that, right?
Mhm.
Now, what did the neighbor do that not made me mad, but hurt me, right? Because anger breeds anger, hurt breeds hurt. I'd rather have anger than hurt. Anger's fleeting.
Right.
It can come in 2.6 seconds, it could be gone, or it can last for years. My mom went 7 years and didn't talk to her sister-in-law because of a sweater.
A sweater.
A sweater. My aunt bought the sweater. My mom liked it. My mom went to the same department store, bought the same sweater. They wore it for the same thing, and they didn't talk for 7 years. But what was underlying really, it really wasn't about the sweater. I mean, my mom swears up and down today it was over that sweater, but I know deep down it wasn't about that sweater.
Right.
There were underlying things that kept them from talking to 7 years because nobody doesn't talk for 7 years over a damn sweater. You know what I mean? But it's all the deep down, locked in files that are there. And
This was the final file.
yeah,
The final file.
final file. Um, Getting rid of the file system, man. We don't even need that. Why do we have it? I don't know why we have it. We don't
Not,
need it.
I think
not working.
we assume we're gonna get hurt.
Mhm.
So it's like we're collecting evidence in advance,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. What was you saying,
Um,
Corey?
I don't know.
You have a file cabinet, Corey?
Yeah, I do. Um, but what I do know, like when you like going back, you were saying about just nitpicking and all that other stuff, but and then finding out that it was like a lot of stuff is you, even though some things are him. Yeah, these days that I've spent by myself and I've got to actually sit with myself, we do so much together, like him and I.
Hmm.
It's weekends are me and him are side by side most of the weekend, and I'm like, oh, I just need a break. Break. But I realized so much stuff about myself, and then I'm like, but I'm trying to figure out what is the actual root of my nitpicking or of why I'm feeling the way that I feel in any given moment. Why do I feel that way about his ex? Why this? I know why I feel that way about his ex, but that's another story. But just everything, just like why am I nitpicking? Is it something from my past? Is it some trauma that I've actually had before, and whatever he's doing is triggering it, or and not even knowing that he's triggering something.
Well, What makes you think, because that's what you're doing, thinking, what makes you think
Right.
that he did anything?
No, it's not that I don't think that he's done anything at all ever.
No, I mean, I'm sure he's not a saint.
I mean, he's not. Let him tell it he is. But
Right, but it, what would, oh God, I'm starting to sound like Lee. It's so bad. Um, what I see happened is you had a file cabinet
mhm.
and you kept filing. You needed a break. You didn't never communicate that.
Well, I did communicate. I communicated that I was moving out. There's more.
Did you
There's
communicate? Right, but did you communicate before you moved out that
yeah.
you needed a
I
break?
moved. No, well, I communicated in November that I was moving out.
Would you have said, you know what? I need a break. I need maybe a weekend. I might go off and just stay in a hotel for a weekend. I just need a weekend, me and a weekend. And it's nothing
No.
that you've done. I just need to do Corey for a minute. Would you still be living there?
Eventually I was moving out anyway.
Okay.
And it's more to do with his adult son and some things and I told him, I said, I can't live with you and your son anymore. So that I was moving out anyway. It wasn't anything that so yeah.
Moving forward in your relationship, because you're still together, right?
Right.
We've got to dismantle the file cabinet.
Right.
We'll nitpick these guys to death, y'all. We'll nitpick them to death.
Yeah.
And we will have them to feel that they're forever fucking up.
Right.
And I hate that when I go to bed at night because I do it every day. I know I do. I know I do. I know I say something every day that's displeasing. I'm Sherry. I'm sure I do. Um, but I want to catch myself, and I do now more than ever. I'll want to. Sometimes I'll get two or three words out. I'll be like, "Oh, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I don't want that." Those two things. I don't mean it. I don't want it.
Right.
I don't want an argument.
Right.
Sometimes it's healthy. Sometimes you got to have them. Sometimes you just got to battle it out. It's just much easier to set someplace and look on it. Lee probably wouldn't tell you, but I'm so I'm so slick. I can tell when Lee's at that trigger moment where he needs a break.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Lee's breaks used to be 2 or 3 days long. He'd go to his brother's and stay for 2 or 3 days, right? We wouldn't talk. It was a mess. And there is still that mechanism in me, right? That how do I avoid this? How do I avoid this? How do I avoid this? This is something I don't want. This is something I don't want. It's like a radar. You're right. Oh, he's got his keys. He's got his keys. He's got his keys, right? I will wait on purpose a lot of times. I will wait until we are out in the vehicle to bring up something that I feel could be triggering to avoid him walking out on the conversation because we're driving. The last time I think I drove us about an hour and a half down the interstate, up the interstate.
He couldn't get out and walk, could he?
And he was like, Sherry, turn this truck around. Turn it. Nope. We'll just keep going. This highway don't stop till Lake Erie. Let's roll. Take this truck home. Nope, not doing it. Well, I'm not going home until this is completely aired out. And scream, and let's scream and yell all we want to.
Right.
We're going down the interstate. He's yelling until that, until the anger and the temper subsides, and I'll just keep driving till it does. And it's oftentimes he just don't want to go that far, so he'll be like, all right, let's discuss this. Right? In order to not show up at Corey's house, like, or Darius, for heaven's sakes. We drove,
Yeah.
Right.
drove all the way here. So, ladies, we gotta watch ourselves. And I don't know what the guys are over there talking about. They're supposed to be talking about communication and conflict like we did. Um, but I'm anxious to hear what they have to say and they're well, right.
Right.
Female feminine energy is more emotional. Not true.
Right.
It's not true.
I think guys get told off their entire life.
Be a
I mean,
man.
all
They-
of us do,
yeah,
but
they're told to be a man and men don't cry and to suck up your feelings and to dry up those tears.
and
Yeah, they're the most
I
sensitive,
feel bad for that.
Yeah.
but they're the most sensitive people out there. They are so
Mm.
super sensitive. Yeah.
Lee is the most vulnerable, gentle man
Yeah.
I've ever met.
And
And
we
he's a
put them in those boxes as well. And if they fit a certain label, that again goes for any human, but I think in certain aspects, guys especially, and even things that women also do, but if
Yeah.
a guy does it, they get beaten for it over and over and over and over.
yeah.
And it's just, and
And here we are filing, pulling it
mm,
out and beating them with it over and
Right.
over and over.
yeah.
Right?
So it's
Uh,
good to step out of that.
Yeah.
it's hard to look at ourselves.
Right.
Mm.
It's hard to look at
It
ourselves
is. But it's good to look at yourself.
when they're
Yeah.
being such dicks. It's hard to
Yeah.
look at ourselves, right? And now I'm comfortable saying that was a dick move, Lee.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was a dick move. I don't agree with it, and I won't, and I can't. I'll stand behind you, but I can't stand behind that.
Right.
And again, years ago, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Or trying to pretend to believe in something he believes in, knowing my everything in me is going, yeah, you don't believe in that.
Right.
Mm.
No, you don't. Right? We come into these relationships and at, fake.
Yeah.
We come in fake,
Right.
right? We don't want to show our crazy.
Mm.
I'm I'm not myself without my crazy.
Right.
And if he loves me, he loves my crazy. No, I'm not
Right.
butcher knife crazy,
No.
right? There's categories
It's
here.
multiple personality crazy.
I've got a fork around here somewhere. I do.
Oh, I saw that TikTok with
I
the
did.
fork.
I just made that TikTok with this fork. Got it right here. You know how I did? I was just looking through it. I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
oh, you don't look good behind bars. None of you do." Um, yeah, we got to start talking more. We got to start being ourselves more. We got to start communicating before the conflict gets there.
Yeah.
Because if we opened our mouths and was calm about it, no, I don't agree with that.
All right.
Or, yeah, no, you don't smell good. Yeah, your butt looks a little big in those. Let's, right? I don't want to go out like looking, feeling like I look good,
Yeah.
but
And
like,
then
my cellulite's showing through my ass in the pants because the pants are too tight. You know what I mean?
We
I don't,
want honesty, but honesty with kindness.
right,
Yeah.
right. Lee will be honest and say, I like the other one better.
right.
Mm.
He'll also say, I feel like I like that one better, but I feel like you'll be more comfortable in the other one.
Yeah.
Mm. Nice.
And I won't And that won't be like, oh, great, now I'm fat.
Yeah.
Great, now I'm ugly.
Mm.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because your head can really take off
Yeah.
and make a
It'll tell
mess,
you a story.
make a
Hmm.
whole mess. And 3 months later, you're divorced because he called you fat.
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And he didn't. And he didn't. Right.
Right.
And he's forever trying to validate, no, I didn't. That's not what I said.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you're standing in front going, yeah, I did, in front of the judge going, yeah, I did. And it just turns into a mess because we wasn't ourselves. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we wasn't ourselves.
But
I'll
do
say
you
it.
think,
I'm just bitchy today. That I'll say it. I'm just irritable and I'm bitchy.
Yeah.
yeah, it's better to let them know and they can walk
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, it's not you.
Well,
I'm irritable. I keep having
Mm.
to
well,
yank my
what do
pants
you
off.
do when you do? What do you do when you are honest and you're like, oh, I just need a minute to myself, or I just need some time to myself, and they take it as rejection and you denying any conversation with them.
It happened a whole lot when we were trying to work that out. And when we had conflict after conflict after conflict, I finally just said, I can't talk to you because your reactions are too much for me. I can't handle your reactions. Um, I be sitting on the couch and I'll be in my phone and I, that always happens, right? I tend to put my phone down, but I think like 2 days before that, I was on him about being on his phone so much. So then
Yeah.
he comes downstairs, I'm on my phone, or he's wanting to do something, I'm on the phone, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to bed. What?
Mm.
I'm going to bed.
Because of the inner dialogue, what your
Yeah.
actions meant.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just tired of being rejected. Where that wasn't it. I was legit trying to finish up a project or something that I was doing, right?
Mhm.
And all I had to do was say, I'm working on a project, right? Or something. But we had that conversation where I would let him know that it's his reactions. It was his reactions. And we needed to find another dialogue or another way around it so I didn't have that fear anymore. Or else I wasn't going to say shit.
Mm.
Every time I am doing this, you feel rejected, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And until we had to sit and freaking talk about it in detail and be like, and then I'll know when Lee gets it because he looks up in his head and be like, I do that a lot, don't I? Yes, you do. Right? So he's done that. He's learned from that. And now he'll say when I'm done, I really would have taken that as rejection.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
I think you learn each other's triggers later and moods, right? So
you
you
do.
know, oh, uh, Sherry said this to me, but she wouldn't say that to me for like it doesn't make sense. Oh, maybe she hasn't had her coffee yet, right? Like I think you just
Yeah.
learn after a while.
Yeah.
Well, you learn after communication.
Yeah.
You learn after communication. Divorces are caused by miscommunication
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
and mind noise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Affairs are caused by miscommunication and mind noise.
And that's what I'm going through now. A lot of miscommunication and my noise.
Most everything's miscommunication and mind noise. Once Lee and
Yeah.
I sit and once Lee and I sit and we explain, that's another thing. You have to be able to explain your side from start to finish without interruption.
Right.
That's important because we all want to be like, no, I didn't. And I was even bad for sitting there going, and you can't even do that,
Mm.
right? Because you're not listening.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not listening. When I
Not at all.
learn to sit and listen to what he's saying and try to see his point of view, right?
Mm.
And I may not have to agree with it, but at least I get it.
Right.
I can understand how he saw it that way, right? And he can understand how I saw it the way I saw it. And then we're like, oh, miscommunication and mind noise.
It's important to pick your moments as well, because if you get somebody in the wrong moment, they just might not have the space for that conversation. So maybe
And
good to
remember not to
ask.
file when you have those moments,
Yeah.
right? Give your partner some grace.
Yeah.
That's you expect grace.
Mm.
I'm telling you, should Leah come to me just even 3 or 4 years ago and said, look, I need a few hours. I'm gonna lock myself in the bathroom. I would have been out here. I would have been in the other room like, what did I do? I don't understand what I do. Why does he need to be away from me? I don't know what I did. You don't love me anymore. And by the time he's out of the bathtub, I'm divorced. Well, really, he just needed a moment.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's all right. I hear the men. I hear the men closing up. So we're gonna close up. Thank you guys for coming. I don't know where everybody else
Thank
was, but
you.
we'll be back in
Yeah, I
two
don't
weeks.
know.
Yeah. Just as free today.
Fine, and it was great.
That's good.
We'll be back in 2 weeks for Soul Chat. And if you want to join, it's free to join. Just come and join us. Email us at relationshipreinvent@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you
Is
ladies
it going to
later.
be every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Every 2 weeks. We're doing a whole lot business wise. So we're
Good.
transitioning into a couple things and um trying to free up time for us too, for the connection.
Okay.
Important.
Good.
All right, guys. We'll see you in two
All
weeks.
right.
Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
day.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.